I'm getting ready to leave for the airport to pick up Tiga. My little sister Tiga works as a scuba instructor in Hawaii. She's flying direct from Hawaii to Tahiti, and then from there she's taking a little hopper plane up to Fakarava Atoll in the Tuamotus. We had so much fun together, and I can't wait to share with you guys all of our adventures. Off with her head! This is dinner. Welcome to Hippie Sailing. I'm single-handing migrant 27 around the world. I started my trip in Maine with a very cold 10-month overhaul of my entire boat. Solo sailed through the Caribbean, the Panama Canal, and 41 days alone across the Pacific. I've been cruising in French Polynesia for the last year and a half, kiting, spearfishing, freediving, and of course fixing all the things that break on my boat. Aboard the Gek, I have no fridge, water maker, fancy electronics, and my rowboat is a dinghy with a sail rig. If you're interested in seeing my daily life, check out my Instagram @BoatLizard. Okay, enjoy the episode. We have so many fun things planned. Starting with I'm really sorry, Tiga. I know you've been traveling for 2 days, but I scheduled a dive for us for 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Good big sister? I think so. So Tiga arrived late in the evening last night. We went to bed, woke up at about 6 this morning, and spent the entire day diving. So this is the first time we've kind of both sat down together to relax a little bit. It's starting to get a bit rolly in this anchorage, which we knew, but it's the one that's close to the airport, so I had to be here. But tomorrow we're waking up at sunrise and sailing down the atoll a little ways to a place where we can hopefully find some more protection from the waves. And if we don't find it there, we'll just keep sailing the next day and get to a spot that we know is going to be guaranteed protected. We are halfway between town and where we're going. Yesterday was a really insanely horrible sail, but hopefully today will be better. I have Tiga. Hey. She's wearing her fishing outfit. Want to catch some fish? We were joking because I have white zinc face and Tiga has I have a fishing Instagram account outfit on. So we're really just representing the cool kids. So we're having our second cup of coffee. There's some bread that's rising. The wind is on the nose, so it's a lot of tacking between coral heads. So we want to leave not too early because then there's not good viz, but not too late either because it's going to be a long day. We are underway for Harifa. It's pretty nasty wind direction, but the wind is nice and the sun is nice, and I have my helm monkey on the helm.
Hello.
This ended up being a pretty insane day of sailing. I didn't film much because it was really full on and I was just excited to be around Tiga. But basically we were tacking for hours and hours out of the channel, really poor viz. We almost hit a couple coral heads. We had some pretty close calls, and by the time we finally got in, we both kind of just collapsed and passed out. The next day on the beach, we met a new friend, Dan, who's on a big boat called Uhuru, and we ended up going spearfishing, Tiga's first spearfishing expedition of the trip. We didn't have great luck spearfishing because I wouldn't say I'm very good. Dan was just learning and Tiga didn't have a spear gun. But after some really beautiful snorkeling, we started noticing a nasty thunderstorm approaching from upwind, so we decided to head back to our boats.
Ooh la la. Right now we're looking for a dinner fish. But so far all we've found are wrens.
I think they, I was just saying that, I think they know they're being hunted.
I can't even find one.
You going, Holly? You're doing great. Yep, nope, keep going. We're ready. Oh, and she did it.
Super graceful. That's a unicorn fish. Or do you mean the name like Freddy or something?
Yeah.
Freddy.
I was gonna let
Freddy
the fish.
Whoa.
Freddy the Wolves.
This is the fish that Holly caught that I didn't know was in there.
Yeah, you know, it just took me an hour to catch this one fish.
Yeah.
Hey, some people that's a good record.
Beating all of us by one.
A small problem that we encountered was that the engine wasn't starting. We were downwind of a rapidly approaching thunderstorm, and we were all starting to get pretty cold. Dan got the engine started once, but it promptly died again, so we were sitting there watching this lightning and hearing the thunder coming closer and closer, and just hoping that we could actually get back to the anchorage. Eventually, Dan did get the engine started, and we made it back to our boat safe and sound, so this story has a happy ending. This is dinner. This is a unicorn fish, and I'm about to gut it.
Dun dun dun! Alright, look at this tiny little mouth. Look at this tiny little nose. I wonder if it also poops rainbows. We are currently filleting fish in a thunderstorm, which is its skin is so pretty. I wonder if that's what Hannibal Lecter said before he cut up his friends. We're definitely gonna use this footage.
So we just had some crazy wind, maybe in the high 30s, coming off of this weather system, right in the middle of which we were making fish pasta.
Fish pasta.
And it's amazing because the squall is way over there, and it's not even at us, and it's already spitting off that much wind. So Tiga and I are trying to ignore what's happening outside, and we're gonna play FaceTime. Eating cucumbers and hummus.
Yum!
It's been thunder lightning all night. Pouring rain right now. There's a rainbow behind us, which is really pretty. Oh, and Tiga, I think, is trying to take a freshwater shower in the rain. I'm not sure. She's up there. I'm in the Dodgers staying dry. And coffee's on the stove. We just woke up. You want some soap?
I love some soap. Thanks.
Harifa is one of my favorite anchorages in the Tuamotus. I sort of have different categories of anchorage. There are some that I love because they're so remote and there's no connection to the outside world and you can easily be the only boat. And then some I love because they're really fun and social, and Harifa is super fun and social. It wasn't all doom and gloom and thunderstorms. Later that day, everything cleared up and Tiga and I took a beautiful swim in some of the shallows between the lagoon and the outer reef. This was sort of our first day that I feel like we were able to relax and goof around, and Tiga got a little taste of what it's like to cruise on a boat in one of the arguably most beautiful places in the world to be sailing, French Polynesia. And I'm making hot pockets. I added oregano and chipotle to the dough, and then I'm rolling it flat here using this bottle of balsamic vinegar as my rolling pin. And for the filling, we caramelized some onions, and now we go out to the second station, which is the filling station, if you're British. That's not where you want to make food.
Up here, Captain. We're adding a little bit of cheese first as a layer, and then a tiny pinch of caramelized onions to go over the top of that. Yum! And then we're adding a scoop of a mixture of diced tomatoes and sauce, mushrooms, garlic, and then some really delicious spices to go in there as the sauce. And then we take our second piece of dough and we'll flatten it over the top and then use the fork to crinkle around the edges.
We're putting little marks in them so that the air bubbles don't bubble too much. This is the big leftover one for calzone. Here's the little hot pockets, all different shapes and sizes because I'm bad at cutting dough in the same way twice. After they were cooked, we took our hot pockets ashore for a little picnic.
Hey, do you have a hairband?
Oh, sorry, I just have the one that's in my hair.
Come on.
Bottom of your earlobe, you say?
Does that seem short?
It's short. That's to here. Okay. Oh my god! Off with her head. Poles are in. No more hair tie needed.
No more hair tie needed. Look. Boom. Shaka. Waka.
There it is.
I actually had it the whole time.
It looks so good. Well, surprise project of the day is that my popcorn pot handle has broken off. And it's impossible. I haven't found any pots in French Polynesia that are sold with lids. So I've been trying to replace this guy for, I don't know, a year. And I can find plenty of pots, but then how can you make popcorn without a lid? So I've kept him afloat until today. Sad day. So my plan is to, so I don't want to drill a hole through the pot, otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose. I'm going to drill holes through the handle, and then there's this little gap between these two, and I'm going to try to mouse the handle back on with mousing wire. Because I've gone through the options of glue, but then I don't have a high heat glue, bolting through the pot, but then you have holes in your pot. So I think this is, well, we'll see. Hopefully it works. So I have drilled these holes at an angle because otherwise this is just way too thick of a piece for me to drill through, so they kind of go from side to side. And now I'm going to put this on. I kind of guessed where they were going to go, so I'm not really sure how this is going to work. But I cut myself a nice big piece of mousing wire. So I have the new handle, it's just these. Perfect. So these are going up through these internal holes. Alright, so this is the internal structure, and we have to thread it all through. I have to thread it all through before I can tighten any of it. So now these ends I just need to put back up through here, and then I'll cinch it all down and it should hold the handle on pretty well, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Hot progress. So everything is kind of cinched down. I'm just gonna take these end wires and give them a little twist underneath the pot so that you don't see the end. Handle stays on. Here's the top, bottom. I tucked the ends under itself, and this is really solid and it looks super cool. Tiga and I are going to go off on a edible shell collecting mission, and if you notice, my face is a new color of zinc. I have discovered this brand of sunscreen, Avasol. I'm not sponsored by them, I just really like them. They have non-plastic packaging. It's cork in the bottom that pushes the sunscreen out, and they make all these different shades of zinc, and I've found this one that almost exactly matches my skin tone, but it also makes it look like I'm wearing foundation, so it's kind of weird. And I really love them. They're super great. So if you're looking for a good sunscreen, highly recommended. I have my personal chauffeur taking me into La Plage.
Oh yes, yes, this is called Dinghy Service 1-800.
Here's our shell collecting bucket, and we have our reef shoes and Tiga's water. Alright, we're on our way down the beach. This is still the inner lagoon, and we're heading to a little path where we can cross over to the outer reef. So this is the path to the beach, to the outer reef rather, there's no beach. So it's looking a little wavy out here. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so right where the waves are crashing is where the shells are, which is why you normally wait for there to be no wind and low tide for this activity. So we might have to put it on the back burner for another day. We will see. So we're looking at the waves, and I think it's too surfy today to go out there because it's pretty big waves breaking on the outer reef. This is us. Even though we hit the reef at exactly low tide, the wind and waves were just way too high to risk standing in breaking white water on sharp coral to hunt for shells. So instead we took our giant blue bucket for a really nice walk and then returned to our boat. We did collect shells, but they were sort of the pretty decorative kind, not the kind that you crack open with a rock and eat raw, crouching in the surf. Not that we did that.
This is so cool. Because you're a perfect silhouette in the sun.
The next day, Tiga and I sailed down to the South Pass to do a night dive with the wild shark population who call Tetamanu home. This was with the dive company, the same one that I'd been hanging out with a few months ago before I sailed to Tahanea. The dive started right at sunset, so at the beginning of the dive you could still see a bit of light filtering down through the water column. That night there was a beautiful full moon, and as the last of the sunlight disappeared, stray rays from the moon wormed their way down to us from above. Already there were more sharks out and about than we'd seen in our dive earlier that day, and they were definitely looking more purposeful than they had by daylight. Our dive instructor told us to watch for a couple different shark behaviors. Most of the sharks we saw that night were black tips, white tips, and gray sharks. The white tip sharks actually break the reef with their heads to get at the fish hiding inside the protective coral. So, if you're diving around the pass by day and see broken reef, it's probably not a careless diver or boat anchor. It's a death message from a shark. But for real. While the white tips are busy breaking the reef, the grays kind of hover behind them, waiting for the fish that will eventually be flushed out. Then, all the sharks form into a giant pack and chase after the poor little fish that were hiding in the coral. As the night progressed, more and more sharks began to appear, and Tiga and I were actually able to see this behavior a few times. It was kind of like being in someone else's nightmare. When I shone my dive light into the depths, I could see tens or maybe hundreds of shark eyes winking back at me. There were rivers of sharks pouring around every rock and coral head. All I could think of were the rats of Nim, the Pied Piper, herds of migrating antelope. I never felt scared because we were with the dive instructor who'd done this dive hundreds of times. Instead, it was a dream-like experience that felt partially surreal, and I'm definitely never going to forget this dive for the rest of my life. The next day we did a day dive in the same pass, and it was crazy to see how different everything looked by the light of the sun. The sharks, after what we'd witnessed the night before, all seemed like tired people returning home from an all-night raver. They were chilled out, sleepy, with big fat bellies kind of floating in the current and not really moving. We just did one dive because the excitement of the night before sort of topped over anything that we'd be able to see the next day, and then we prepared ourselves to move over to another anchorage with some friends that we'd met the day before. Thanks for watching this week's video. I put up new videos every 2 weeks on Mondays, and for my patrons, you guys get a snack on the weeks that I don't put out a full-length YouTube video. Thank you guys so much for all of your lovely comments, and I'm sure you're gonna love my sister as much as I love her. This week, my video is coming to you guys from Maine. This is actually my last day in Maine, and I'm taking the opportunity to edit as many videos as I can while I have the ability to sit at a table and plug my computer in and edit things and upload them on Wi-Fi connections instead of using my cell phone. So I've just spent all day editing this video, and I'm going to start another one tonight so you guys can have lots of love from Maine. In real time, I'm flying back down to my boat in about 5 days, but first I'm going to the West Coast to visit some more family. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your lovely comments. Thank you, Tish, for being my manager and helping me schedule these videos. Thank you, patrons, for supporting me and helping make all this stuff possible. I really couldn't do it without you guys. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie. For one-time donations, I have a PayPal. That's paypal.me/windhippie. And if you want to join the merchandise club, I have Wind Hippie t-shirts, sweatshirts, etc. Those are all in a link in the description below. Things are flying off the shelves, so get your gear while the getting's good. All right, patrons, I'll see you guys next week, and everyone else, I'll see you in another 2 weeks.